Welcome to Live Well, Dream Big. I'm Suzanne Monroe, founder of the International Association of Wellness Professionals, where I've been teaching people how to live a life of wellness, tap into their passion, and go for their dreams for over 15 years. I believe living well and dreaming big starts with ourselves. This podcast will show you how to create a healthy, holistic life, empower your mindset, follow your dreams, and make a big impact. Let's dive in right now. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Live Well, Dream Big. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode, How to Get Unstuck. Today, I'm talking with Donna Lee Humble. Donna Lee is a spiritual teacher, an emotional release expert, the creator of the Higher Self-Care series, an IAWP certified holistic wellness coach, and the author of a brand new book, Seek Not for Love. And Donna Lee has gone through a life of emotional trauma and physical ailments and challenges and struggles. And yet, instead of getting and staying stuck, she's come out the other side. Today, she's going to share with us some of her key practices that have helped her to not stay stuck. And I'm excited for you to listen in. I also had the opportunity to meet Donna Lee about a year ago in person. And I can tell you this, I felt this love and light and energy just radiating from her. So I think you're going to have the opportunity to experience that today as well. So be sure to listen in, subscribe, and share this show with a friend. All right, let's get started. Welcome to today's episode, How to Get Unstuck. Today, we're talking about how to turn around challenges in our life and ensure we keep moving forward rather than getting stuck in one place. And today, I have with me Donna Lee Humble. Donna Lee Humble is the founder of Biosynergy Better Health. She's an international lifestyle and wellness coach and a holistic health practitioner. She specializes in computerized bioenergetic testing. She's also a spiritual teacher, a speaker, emotional release expert, the creator of the Higher Self-Care series. She leads workshops and groups and private wellness programs. And since 2001, she's really been known around the globe for bringing you back to the wisdom within by empowering you to embrace your passion and your purpose and the natural state of peace in your body and your mind and your spirit. And she's overcome really a plethora of emotional trauma and physical ailments and challenges herself in her life. And she's done it all really through natural means. And she's joyfully really served thousands of holistic-minded women and men as they refine their health and wellness. Donna Lee is also an IAWP certified holistic wellness coach, graduate of our program, and the author of a brand new book, Seek Not for Love. Hey, welcome, Donna Lee.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor.
Well, I'm so excited you're here. It's just so fun to see you again out there. Some of you may know because I mentioned Donna Lee in a previous episode last year. I actually had the opportunity to meet up with Donna Lee live in person, which I don't always get to do with podcast listeners and people in our community. It was kind of on a whim, and it was so great to meet you in person, Donna Lee.
Well, thank you. I can't tell you what an honor it was for me. It brought tears to my eyes to actually see you in person and just feel your energy that I've felt through all the work that we've done together, and how you have a way of putting it out there in a way that people can feel it as if they are with you in person. And I really appreciate actually meeting you in person.
Oh, that is so sweet. And I'm just receiving that. And I thank you for that. And I actually was about to say the same about you in a sense, because what I noticed when we met in person, and I've shared this with a few other people, you just had this kind of this energy and this light and this love kind of radiating from you. And I was really taken by it. And I'm so excited for everybody to connect with you live, because I think they're going to get a little glimpse of that today. It's not the same as meeting in person, but I'm really excited for you to kind of share some of your gifts and your message with us, because I know, just through your writing your book and all that you've been through, there's so many things we could dive into today. But let's just kind of start out talking a little bit about your journey and maybe get a little backstory here on how you decided to even get into holistic health and healing. And I mean, wow, you have so much training and so many different experiences and helping others. And you ultimately became a wellness coach here through the IAWP. But it sounds like you've been on this journey for many years. Tell us a little bit more about that to get us started.
Well, I have to go back to my childhood in a way, because I was a sickly child. And due to a lot of things, mostly the trauma and drama that I endured, but because my parents were both unhealthy in the way that they had practices. They smoked and they probably overate, and they were addicted to pharmaceutical medications for sure. And that led me to when I was in my probably early 20s to say, wait a second, I want to change this, and I don't want to be dependent on chemicals to change the state of my health. And so I started seeking, and I sought many different chiropractors, homeopathic doctors. I just looked everywhere I could. And once I found this is what I call the Band-Aid approach. You're looking everywhere and you're finding a little bit here, a little bit there, but nothing that fully brings you to that peace and healing that you're seeking for. But sometimes you need those Band-Aid approaches to get to that place, to put it together for yourself. And eventually I realized that, especially when I found the computerized bioenergetic testing, that, wow, this works. It's an alternative for people who cannot tolerate medication. And I can learn to do this and empower more people and help people become more healthy.
Wow. So you had all these, it sounds like you watched your parents go through some different things. You were like, I don't want to be on that same journey, yet you were kind of experiencing different things and you went out just seeking. And I think it's so interesting how you say it, because I think anybody who kind of starts out on their own health journey, they do kind of what you did. It's like you just try all these kind of different things and somehow you put them together either as a mosaic or you find kind of one thing that really ends up bringing it all together. So I think it's interesting just to hear kind of how that happened for you. So big, exciting news. You were telling me about it when we met in person, and I got the opportunity to read an advance copy, which was really exciting. And you've written a book, and tell us a little bit about the book and who it's for. I'm curious about that.
So the book is for anybody who's struggled in life. So everybody, really. Boy, how do I answer these questions? There's so much under that question that I'd have to go into hours of explaining. But what I think the book is for people who have been there, done that, who've overcome a lot of struggles. They've either had health issues or anxiety, depression, or they're on this busy treadmill and they can't get off, and they want solutions. They want deeper solutions. They don't want the Band-Aid approach. They want real transformation and real tools to get through, to utilize whatever comes up in life, because life is going to happen. To utilize what comes up in life and then have a tool or identify what the problem is so they can solve it and move forward and actually raise their vibration in the process, so that when problems or situations occur again, they're quicker to come back to center.
I like that. Quicker to come back to center, because as you were talking about that, I was thinking, okay, life really is just full of challenges, right? No matter what level you're at, no matter what your experience is, what your background, it almost seems like the purpose of life sometimes is to kind of bring you different challenges and experiences, right? And so what you're saying is you can kind of just like Band-Aid approach through those, kind of muscle through, or you can find ways to kind of maybe flow through them in a different way. You mentioned this higher vibration. What does that mean for people listening who are like, what exactly does a higher vibration mean?
The word I like to use is spiritual resilience. In other words, when life happens, when obstacles or barriers occur in your life, sometimes insurmountable barriers occur in your life, or seemingly insurmountable. We fall apart. We go into bad habits, or we just give up emotionally and mentally. And spiritual resilience is, in a higher vibration, is tapping into that, facing that walking through it with support at first, and eventually you can do it on your own, and then gleaning the lesson that you were invited to grow from each problem.
Mm. That was really interesting what you just said there, that last part. I was like, oh wow, that was a real gem, because it sounds like there's a lesson that we're all invited to kind of get on every challenge. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Every challenge, no matter what, there is a lesson. We are in Earth School.
Earth School. Very cool. I love that. You know what? And I think it's true. It's like I can look back at my life, think of different experiences, think of different challenges, and somehow, sometimes I just kind of made my way through them, and maybe I didn't really get the lesson. And then they kind of showed up in a different way, right? Until I was willing to say, hey, what's really going on here? What is the lesson? I think that's just a real powerful way of thinking about your challenges. And I guess we could all think about how we're in Earth School. So let me ask you this, Donna Lee. It sounds like the path to finding your purpose and your passion, it wasn't always easy, as you describe in your book. I mean, as you said, you've had many ups and downs, and really reading the book, I was like, wow, you've actually been through so much in your life. It's incredible that you were able to have and build this spiritual resilience. But tell us a little bit more, as much as you can, really, just about that personal story, and why did you decide to go out and share this personal story now and really write a book about it?
Oh, great question. I was teaching a workshop, as you recommend over and over and over and over again. I was actually doing it. I had been doing workshops regularly, and that was really the way I was getting my clients. And I came away from that workshop, driving back from that workshop, and I said to myself, I have only given them a tiny piece of what I have to offer in that workshop. And it occurred to me to write a book at that point. And as a matter of fact, I returned, this was 2 years ago, I returned to the venue and the owner, and I gave her a copy of the book and said, I don't know if you know this, but something in that workshop inspired me to actually write a book, which I had never planned to do in my lifetime.
Wow, that's interesting. You had this little moment. Let's just segue there for a second. I mean, you can have little flashes of ideas, but sometimes you don't do them. It sounded like you got this idea and you just said, did you just know you were meant to do it, or how did that happen?
So I went home, started writing immediately. And I thought I was going to write about the 5 steps to higher self-care. And all of a sudden I'm writing about my childhood, and I could not stop. And I wrote, probably wrote 5 chapters. And I thought, oh, this isn't the way it's supposed to go. I was doubting myself. My husband is an avid reader. And if anybody was going to be an author in the family, it would have been him, I thought. And I handed him my rough copy of these first 5 chapters. And he read it and looked at me and said, I think you have something here. And with that, I just dove right in and kept writing.
I love it. I love how you just opened up to whatever was meant to come through, right? Because like here you have your logical mind is like, you must explain your 5-step process, your steps or whatever. And something took over and was like, nope, here's your story. But yet it sounds like you combined those 2 things together too.
I ended up finishing the book. I didn't know how I would finish the book, but I ended up going through Earth School, which was the hard lessons that we probably all have. It's all relative, right? We all have lessons in life, no matter what sort of childhood we experience. There are lessons, and that's what we call Earth School. And then mastering the curriculum was how I climbed out and worked through the trauma, the drama, and coming back to my center, my higher self, the peace that was within me. That was mastering the curriculum. And then the 3rd segment of the book is your task, which kind of gives you the ball, and you decide, can I work with these 5 steps to help grow myself and achieve more peace in my life.
Hmm. Well, it's interesting. You talk about, this high idea of how can I get more peace in life, right? Except life is full of these challenges, as you're saying, no matter who you are. And everybody has different challenges, different experiences. But some people get stuck in these challenges and some find ways out. I mean, let's talk about this. What are some of the reasons that people actually get and stay stuck, given that we all have challenges? Some people seem to stay stuck longer.
That's a loaded question. I knew we were going to talk about getting unstuck in this, and I thought about that a lot. And what came to me through my sort of meditating on it and tapping into my higher self is stuck is a part of life. It's like the ebb and flow. Sometimes we are not actually stuck, but are just taking a break so we can move forward again. And we tend to, as doers and action takers, believe that there's something wrong. And when we take that energy of feeling stuck and decide resist it, then it will keep you stuck longer. In my experience, when you embrace the stuckness and allow yourself to feel as stuck as you do for even 5 or 10 minutes and just sink into everything that brings up, and it will be uncomfortable to do that because a lot of fear may show up, maybe even grief or anger, depression even may show up in that. Taking time to sink into the feeling of stuckness. When you do that fully and completely, you'll pop out the other side quicker. Now, I'm not saying you'll do it in 10 minutes, but when you're resisting it, what we resist persists. When we're resisting it, we're giving it energy. And when we surrender to it, we're allowing ourselves to glean the lesson, and maybe we never really know what the lesson is, but we allow ourselves to sink into it, allow ourselves to fear it, and then let it go.
Wow. I'm sitting here thinking, embrace the stuckness. Okay. Mindset shift, right? I thought you were going to get into all the ways to get unstuck. I didn't think you were going to say, no, being stuck is good. So I'm like, woo, big surprise here in this conversation. But wow, it's powerful, right? Because I think you hear from, whoever it is, gurus or other experts, like, okay, here's, how to become happy. Here's how to, get out of this negative place. And here's how to be positive. And what I hear you saying is being stuck is really a part of life. And there's kind of a gift to it almost.
And I think the people that stay stuck or believe they're staying stuck have resisted it and created a whole new animal there, and resisted it and resisted it and resisted it and not sunk into the fear around that stuckness.
Yet it's really like what you're saying it's uncomfortable. You said it's uncomfortable. It's kind of scary to say, okay. I mean, because it feels like easier to be like, I'm resisting this, but you're not thinking that. You're thinking, oh, I'm just kind of moving on. I'm ignoring this. But this idea of embracing the stuckness, that could seem scary because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to dive into this, as Donna Lee is saying. Like, what does that even look like? What does that mean? I'm just curious, like it does sound a little uncomfortable.
So the truth is that you are already enlightened. The emotions that we experience, the feelings of stuckness, anger, sadness, apathy, whatever's coming up, are just passing through. You are perfect, whole, and complete just as you are. You are the essence of love and light. The problem is that we forgot. We forgot that we're that. And we allow our emotions or our cyclical thinking to pull us away from that peace that's within. And stuckness is just another part of that obstacle that pulls us away from the peace.
Mm. But what you're saying is different here, because if we are all that, if we are that peace and that love and that light and that enlightenment, one would think, well, I shouldn't be stuck if I'm all that. But you're saying if you go into the stuckness, you somehow come out the other side?
Yes, and you just hit on another obstacle. Emotions are one obstacle, and feeling stuck is an actual emotion. The second of three obstacles that I've identified, the second obstacle is our thinking. And you just said I shouldn't be feeling stuck. Is the thought? I shouldn't feel stuck. I shouldn't be stuck. That's a thought. And you can take that thought and reframe it. You can dissect it and pull out only the facts. And the truth is, you should be stuck. If you're stuck, you're stuck. I know that sounds really weird and opposite to what we've learned, but yeah, I'm stuck right now. And maybe I'm not stuck. Maybe you could reframe it to I'm needing to pull back so I can move forward again. I'm needing to ebb and flow.
So this is really interesting, Donna Lee, because I think there's this idea that, I mean, don't we all want to experience like peace and calm and joy and health? But we wish we could just go right there. We want to skip the parts that don't feel like that. But what you're saying is that's just part of the journey. And actually, you're going to get there faster if you're willing to feel those things.
The not wanting to feel stuck or deal with the thoughts in our head, the avoiding that creates what we call habitual escapism, where you're seeking something to make you feel good. Sometimes it's shopping, sometimes it's having a glass of wine or two, sometimes it's overeating, and you start creating more problems for yourself by reaching for those escape tactics instead of facing, okay, right now in this moment, I'm thinking a negative thought that I can't get out of my head. Instead of going to the refrigerator, you, with support or using the steps in the book, write down that thought and dissect it and move through the other side and you don't have to do those escape tactics to get through, because we all want to feel good. We want to feel that peace. And the bottom line is, you need do nothing to feel that peace. All we need to do is remove the obstacles that are in the way of that love and light and peace and that feel good place.
Well, I was going to ask you, what are some clues that cause people to feel like they're stuck, or are there certain things they're doing, or do they find themselves in certain situations? Because when you're stuck, I guess you may not even realize you're stuck until you kind of have a breakthrough or you get to the other side. And it sounds like habitual escapism might be one of those things. But are there certain things that people might be doing? Like, let's say they're listening to this, they're like, I never really thought about, am I stuck? But they're doing those things that you just described, habitual things, whether it's numbing out on your phone or, drinking too much or going to the refrigerator. How do people know, if they're not sure?
You know when you're escaping, when you feel a little bit guilty or maybe a little shame, or like you're not, it's a feeling. And I have a colleague, Laura, who told me a story about how she was seeking for that peace in her life. And she was doing everything. She was doing yoga. She was receiving coaching. She was hanging out with her dog in nature and doing all the right things to achieve peace. But as soon as she got in a car and turned on the radio, these negative thoughts and emotions started popping up. And she would get so frustrated that she would start looking for peace anywhere, because she was at this point of, oh my gosh, I can't feel this anymore. I want peace in my life. She really wanted it. And so she went first to her computer to find peace there. And then she went to the social media. Then she went to, she spent money even on vacations and things she couldn't really afford overspending, and she started drinking a little bit more. She started overeating a little more. She was doing all of these things. She even decided that maybe if she could help somebody, if she could be there for a family member and make them happy, then maybe she would have that happiness. And she found that she hit the wall and just collapsed. Plus, she was now a little overweight and had debt because she was spending money she didn't have, and she was wasting her life on social media and such. And she didn't know what to do, but she was very, very, very determined. And those were the signs that you're looking outside of yourself for the answer. You're looking outside of for peace. Now, that doesn't mean sometimes you get an intuition to work with a coach or a therapist or somebody like that. They might be your bridge to having more peace. But a good coach or therapist is going to tap into your inner knowing. And so you're finding the answers within in that way. In her search for peace, she found that the things that were the biggest issues in her life, it wasn't by skirting around those issues, it was by diving into them. The negative thoughts, the overwhelming emotions, it was by diving in. And when she practiced doing that, the first time she did it, she had an incredible release when she just surrendered to the anger and the frustration that she was having about not having peace. That was actually getting in the way of the peace that was already there. When she tapped into that, it sunk into it, it stayed with it and just allowed it, the anger and the frustration, even the depression, and sat with it consciously and just really paid attention to it, noticed it with curiosity. Suddenly she popped out.
I hear that. I think, wow, it was actually so simple all along, but she spent years or months or however long doing all these different things. And as you describe that story, I think we can all relate and be like, wow, many of us have, we have a lot. We can look around ourselves and say, I have all these things. I'm doing all these things. I can even be helping people, but we're constantly doing all these things. And yet we might not actually really be happy inside. We may not feel that peace yet. The path to get there could be a lot simpler than we thought if we were just willing to kind of look at that as what I hear you describing.
Exactly.
Well, and so you talk about this feeling of peace. You talk about authenticity. You talk about enlightenment in the book. What do those three things, peace, authenticity, and enlightenment, mean to you? And why are they important on this human journey?
Everybody, in my mind, everybody wants peace. No matter how you're trying to achieve it, whether it's through career success or personal family success and happiness, we all want peace on some level or other. And the irony is that you are the peace, and all of these obstacles in your life are your way to get there, are just your roadmap to coming back to the peace that you're looking for out here. Authenticity it's way more fun than pretending like you're somebody you're not. And I thought I was pretty authentic, but I realized after practicing my own 5 steps that I was pretending to be somebody I was not. As a matter of fact, it was a huge, vulnerable step for me to write a book about my journey. It wasn't always pretty, and I made a lot of very heavy mistakes in my life. Very, very vulnerable for me to do that. But once I started practicing, allowing myself to feel and honor what I was feeling in the present moment, surrender to it, even for just a minute and a half, when I allowed myself to look at what I was thinking in my head and reframe it and say, wait a second, I'm going to question that and put it in a different way that helps me rather than hinders me. When I began doing that kind of work and slowing down the busyness of my life and meditating and coming into the present moment, people started commenting maybe a year or two after I started doing this, but they started saying, "You are so authentic." And now I can dance, play, swing on the swings with the kids, just be who I am in the moment, laugh, wear goofy clothes if I feel like it. I don't have to be somebody I'm not. I don't have to pretend. And the authenticity is a freedom. It really is a freedom to just be able to truly be yourself.
I love that. This whole, as you describe all this, I'm picturing people, we're all on this roadmap of life, right? And we're ultimately seeking peace. We're like, I just want that feeling of peace in my life. And I'm on this roadmap and we're like, this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it. But what's really coming through today is like, no, this is it. All of these challenges are the roadmap, but we have to kind of reframe it and think of it in a new way. So I think that's just such a powerful gift, just that concept alone that, you've really shared with everybody today. So I got to say this, Donna Lee, since I've known you and all the years you've been a part of this community, it's just been so fun watching your work evolve and everything that you've been up to as a coach and helping people. But you've always been really about self-care and self-awareness. So I know that's a big part of your book as well, but why is self-care just so important to you? And why do you think it's so important for others?
Well, I'm not saying anything you probably haven't shared or another speaker hasn't shared around self-care. But for me, if I'm not taking care of myself, I am unable to serve in this world. And self-care looks different for me at different times. And even I forget self-care, especially with the book coming out and a lot of speaking engagements and things like that. I've forgotten to take care of myself. I can't work seven days a week, and I keep forgetting that. So I think we get reminded when we have enough discomfort to come back to what is it I need to do to take care of myself. And I actually check in with myself every 2 weeks, and just like if I were coaching myself, and check in, what is it that's really out of balance in my life. I really still use the lifestyle wheel that I got from you guys, from the IAWP in my coaching training. And I look at that and I identify, and that self-care piece, it can be a minute action step, will bring me back into that balance that I need to have in order to serve others, in order to share what I have learned in my lifetime so that others don't have to suffer as long as I did. And so self-care for me is about being able to serve others. I had to tell my children a long time ago, I have 2 adult children, a boy and a girl. They're now in their 40s. Now you guys know how old I am.
Wait, I was like, that can't be possible. For those of you who are listening to the episode, you maybe don't see the video unless you're watching the video podcast, but Donna Lee does not look that old.
Thank you, Suzanne. And I had to tell them, my children, I had to start saying no, because I was what we call a codependent mom. I was doing everything for my kids. And that's what we're supposed to do when their kids are little, right? But we want to empower our children to be able to work through their life and glean their lessons in life without interference. So I had to tell them no. I had to learn to tell them no. It was really difficult to tell them no, and other people in my life, because I was the one doing and giving to everyone and sacrificing my own life in the process. When I learned to tell them no, they did not like it. Can you imagine? They're adults, and I was there for everything for them. They didn't like it at all. And so I had to, and it was really difficult for me to say, no, I'm not able to do that, or I'm not willing to do that right now. And so I think we went through, 6 months to a year, maybe 2 years of them not liking that at all. And then years later, both of my children, adult children who are very different people, they came back to me, Suzanne, and they said, Mom, you so inspired me, so brought me up when you quit doing things for me. I'm so glad. That means more to me than anything you could have done for me. And they both thanked me in different ways at different times, but they both came around.
Wow. Wow. What a story, right? Because we think that we have to keep doing things the same way and we have this, desire to keep giving and helping others, and to do what you did, to stop and say, okay, I'm going to, as a self-care act of love to myself, I need to stop doing this, but to actually do it, especially if someone's been used to you acting a certain way. I mean, that's got to be really challenging, right? Because you're suddenly doing something completely different than they're used to. All right, so let me ask you this. Self-care, I know it's a big piece, and you cover a lot of self-care practices in your book, and you really walk through this 5-step formula as well. I'm not going to give it away because it's in the book, and I want people to dive into the process. It's not something that you just touch on. You have to really dive into. But there's the 5 steps and these self-care practices and things that you've used along the way. Share with us maybe just a glimpse, one of your favorites that you think anyone can get started with, or a tool that people will say, okay, here's what I could give a try to today.
Earlier, I said there were 3 barriers in my experience to peace. The first one is emotions. The second is our thoughts. And the third is navigating the physical world. In other words, our busyness, our tasks, our health, all of those things that we have to do to have balance in our physical world. The biggest suggestion I can make for you is to begin to identify where my out of balance is. Are my emotions overwhelming right now? Or is it a negative thought that keeps circulating over and over again that I'm just letting control my life? Or is it the busyness or my health in the physical world? And identifying where it is. The first step is to identify what your obstacle is in the moment. And then you can continue with the other steps to reframe, release, or rebalance that area of your life.
Well, the identifying part is actually so important, because while it sounds really simple, what I'm getting is like most people are just either stuck in the emotions, as you said, or stuck in the thoughts, or stuck in the busyness, right? We're just running on a treadmill. We're just going. And we just don't stop. We don't pause to be able to bring that awareness. So it sounds like such a powerful step, really, because I think once you do that, then everything else that you teach, through the book can come into play. But if you don't stop, it's not going to happen.
Stop and identify. Pause, take a moment, slow down.
Tell us a little bit more about where people can get the book if they want to go through your 5-step formula, learn a little bit more about your story. Where's a great place for them to go?
BioSynergyBetterHealth.com. There's something I'm offering right now that is a really beautiful adjunct to the book. And the book is called Seek Not for Love, Removing Your Barriers to Peace, Authenticity, and Enlightenment. And there's a workbook, webinar, and a free session with me that you can purchase on the products page of the website, I believe. And it's called 5 Steps to End Negative Thinking. And it's beautifully done, probably a 20-page workbook with a 1-hour webinar that actually goes through every one of the 5 steps. You can do that as an adjunct to the book, or just do that by itself, or just do the book. And I think that would be the best next step if somebody is really interested in delving further.
I love that. You can do the book. You can if you're the person who loves to get into stuff and really do the exercises, or you want that support, that's there for you as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. We'll also put the link below in the show notes for people to check that out. Donna Lee, I've got to say, this has been an enlightening conversation today. Lots of practices and tools and thoughts to really take in. I want to thank you for being here.
May I make a closing statement?
Please do.
So your task is not to seek for love, peace, or better health, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against them. No thought you can think, no emotion you can feel, no circumstance in your life can change that. You are the peace that you're seeking.
Thank you so much for that. And Thank you to everybody for listening in and joining us. And I look forward to our next conversation together. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me for today's episode of Live Well, Dream Big. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And I want to invite you to take your next step toward living well and dreaming big by downloading the Live Well, Dream Big lifestyle book. It's the ultimate guide to becoming your best self and living life on your own terms. You can grab your complimentary copy by going to the link in the show notes or heading directly to IAWPwellnesscoach.com/guide. That's IAWPwellnesscoach.com/guide.